Finally, oh my God, the New York Metropolitans, for the first time since May 2nd of this season, are above 500, sitting 40-39 on the season after another easy victory here, this time against the Houston Astros, the hottest team in the American League as of late. They just got to 500. The Mets just kicked them back down. How you doing, everybody? How's it going, amazing? All you amazing Mets fans in here, as always, for the latest post-game show as the New York Metropolitans take down the Houston Astros by a final score of 7-2. In tonight's show, we're going to break down everything inning by inning as we always do. We will get into the highlights as we have plenty here. Again, we're Jeff McHits, he's alive, he's back. Yes, I'm as shocked as you are. That's why I'm jaw-dropped with the O.M.G. Jose Iglesias dropping his O.M.G. song today. We saw him performing at Citi Field for the team itself yesterday. The vibes are riding high. We're absolutely electric right now. The Amazons continue to get on a roll. They may never lose a ball game again, folks, and we got a lot of breakdown on the highlight front. We're going to get into the pitching and why Jose Quintana continues to be an expendable pitcher for the Mets leading up to the MLB trade deadline, as we saw, of course, David Stern speak on the deadline in his pregame presser earlier today that we discussed in our pregame show. On the hitting end, again, Tyrone Taylor filling in for Starling Marte. Another day, another not a problem for Mr. Tyrone, and right hitting bombs once again. The bombs came from plenty in the lineup today, which we absolutely love to see. So pumped up to get into this matchup and everything that it entailed, everybody. But please do me a favor to everybody first chiming in live on a replay, especially here on YouTube, as always, to spam those W's in the chat down below and get ready Yoshima with the $2 holla. Thank you so much for that. Now, folks, let's let it rip with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. I apologize about that, folks. Let's do this again in regards to the jingle, because I realized it started running when I didn't give it the okay to do so. So I'm going to go back again. All right, everybody. We're going to let it rip. We have so much to break down in this Metropolitan victory. I'm so excited to get to your comments, questions, and concerns. But now let's let it rip with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. And apologies once again if the jingle ran for like 2 seconds a second ago. Shout out, as always, to my guys, Greg and Jordan, for the post-game jingle. You guys know the vibes. You know how it is. O.M.G. indeed, baby. Jose Iglesias continues the vibe. Even then, when Jose Iglesias didn't start today's game, it didn't matter. Jeff McNeil carried his weight and then some, and I've been unbelievably critical of Jeff all season long, and I will continue to be for the guy that's supposed to be our contact king. But you want to know what Jeff McNeil did today? He came out and officially became the McHits again, giving us a three-piece of hits, which we absolutely love to see. With the home run galore, the line drive to right too. I was jaw-dropped like each and every one of you, wondering how did that just happen? And yet it did. Dude, can you ask me to make you a better priest? No, but I appreciate the love no less. Shout out to have you in here. Again, no matter how much you love or hate the jingle continues, folks. My girlfriend is shaking her ass to this beat, says yeet, and I absolutely love it, and I believe it. Folks, let's break down this ball game. We got a lot to get into. Continue to spam those W's. I just want to know the initial reaction to the victory tonight. Now the Mets sit 12-2 on this season with Grimace since he threw out the first pitch. The Mets have won 23 out of 25 games. Francisco Alvarez has found himself in this season. So to suggest that Alvarez isn't a difference maker is hilarious. Alvarez quite literally was highlighted rather, by David Stearns in his pregame presser today. We have some key updates on the unfortunate news and the future of Drew Smith in this bullpen, or lack thereof, and how the Mets address this pen going forward. But before I get into all that, everybody, continue spamming the chat in the comments down below. I want to know your immediate reactions to this victory for the Mets. Again, they face Ronel Blanco, of course, Mets, the best right-hander right now for the Houston Astros, with JV being out with injury, of course, and them getting inconsistencies from plenty of their other arms. The Mets get Romeo Blanco and beat up on him to a certain degree, and they take care of that bullpen. They did what they needed to do, and they come out on top again by a final score of 7-2. It is fantastic to see both Alonso and McNeil contribute tonight, but like the old Mets, if you will, right? We all know that feeling very well as Mets fans. Very, very happy to see the contributions from the boys especially. You gotta hope it continues, but in the case of McNeil especially, look, if Jeff isn't going to give us this often, I just want him to perform every time he's in this lineup, and he did that today, so that is something I will greatly appreciate. But we got a lot of updates to get into, guys, so I don't want to lollygag. I don't want to waste too much time here. Appreciate all my live members. First, Shaman and D, PB, how you doing? Mr. Delightful, Anthony, going up the list here a bit more. Again, thank you all so much. SR, how you doing? I know my man Dave will be in here if he's not already. Shraken, how you doing? Thank you all so much. Michael J. Stro, everyone and your mother, happy to have you in here, folks, for the latest in Mets land. If you guys could do me a favor and smash that like and subscribe button on your way in for your boy on YouTube, greatly appreciated. To all my live viewers here on Twitter, thank you so much for being in here. But know that we will only be interacting with our live viewers here on YouTube, so make sure to smash that like, that follow button, that retweet button, but no, that's how we'll be doing this thing. And again, thank you all so much in advance for understanding. Let me make sure that this is all properly set up, and then let's let it rip, folks. Again, the Metsies won an awesome one here, and we're feeling electric. The vibes are high, to say the least, after a win like this. Shraken with the $5 donation says, wait, what happened to Lindor? He slightly rolled his ankle there going at second base, but he was fine after ripping his RBI double, the final run that the Mets drove in today. Also, the Mets right now are having an awesome, after game show go on the field. I don't know if it's a fireworks show or just an awesome light show at Citi Field. All the Mets are currently on the field right now, rocking their O.M.G shirts, a lot of them. Shamanaya is repping a little O.M.G sign, all in, representation and hyping up Jose Iglesias and his new single that just dropped over this past night, which is so sick. So make sure to check that out, guys, in case you haven't seen it on SNY's broadcast right now. And Shraken with the $5 donation says the following: no matter what are heating up, even ones who's been discussed in trades, they have risen their stocks. So no matter what, we are in a better situation. We are in a better situation. Every day, we're in a better situation than the days prior, Shraken. 100%. SR with the $5 haul. Thank you so much for that. See all the stats on Lindor. Oh, we know him on shortstops. Almost like he's one of the best players in Major League Baseball. One of the best overall players in the National League. Who would have thought? Mets are ace eaters. How many aces have they ground stomped, or curb stomped, as I love to say, SR? Well, the Mets, again, they took care of Blanco today. They didn't light up the world on him, but they took care of him. Now, between Blanco that we've seen, between, of course, Dylan Cease against the Padres, Luis Gil, Garrett Cole, the Mets are finally starting to tack on against some very good pitchers in Major League Baseball this season. Even if, again, this goes in hand with a lack of health with some of these guys or their own inconsistencies, doesn't change the fact that the Mets have done such a good job on actually hitting starting pitching, no matter who the opposing starter is right now. All right, folks, now let's get into getting into all the updates and breaking down this amazing win. We're 40 likes away from 100 in the live show. Thank you all so much for that, as you continue to smash that like and subscribe on for your boy for the #1 post-game show here live on YouTube and on Twitter. Thank you all so much in advance. But all right, guys, the first time the Metropolitans are above 500 since May 2nd. You know how much we went through throughout that time? We've covered essentially every single game throughout that span, and the Mets definitely had us all thinking miserable May was going to be the end of the season, and now we have a joyful June, again leading the way now in June with, I believe, what is this? The 18th victory the Mets have now this month. They're leading the way. They are far and away in first among all teams in Major League Baseball in the month of June in runs per game. They entered tonight's game averaging over 6 runs per game, and that held true as they scored 7 yet again in this one. I was worried about Quintana was going to kill our vibes, says AJ with the $5 donation, but glad he was able to battle through. Yes, glad he was able to battle through indeed. Thank you so much for that donation, my man. Happy to have you in here. But the latest updates, folks, is as follows. I will speed run them quick because I want to break down the ball game for you all. It starts with 1. Drew Smith is out for the season with his second Tommy John surgery. Drew, who has a career 3.5 or higher ERA during his time as a Metropolitan reliever, is now coming to an end during his time in Flushing, Queens. So, regardless on how much you guys loved or hated Drew Smith, I'm wishing the absolute best in his future endeavors. I don't foresee them to be with the Mets. He was choked up in his pregame presser today because of that reason, because I bet he knows that too, obviously, unfortunately. But Drew Smith, who was awesome in non-high leverage situations and brutal in high leverage situations, is now the latest arm out of this Mets bullpen. he enters guys like Nate Lavender, who was balling out in spring and, of course, started the year in AAA, and Brooks Raley as fellow Mets relievers out for the year with, unfortunately, season-ending Tommy John surgery. So the Mets, who are already down multiple guys in their bullpen, including Sean Reed-Foley on the injured list, including down a complete reliever with Edwin Diaz serving his 10-game suspension, the Mets definitely are going to be looking for some bullpen help and fast. And oh my goodness, Jose Iglesias is actually performing his oh my god at Citi Field right now. Just when you thought the vibes couldn't get higher, they just got higher. Jose Iglesias is quite literally performing his new O.M.G. song live to Citi Field and to all those fans that stayed for postgame. And for the players. That is so sick. I love this man to death. He is everyone's favorite 34-year-old infielder veteran called up. Steve, I have not gotten the P.O. box yet. That same applies for my man Dave in the chat. Thank you guys so much for everything you sent. I can't wait to get to it. Haven't yet. We will soon, though. Once I do, I will gladly shout you guys out for everything that you sent my way. And again, thank you so much for doing so as always. But the vibes are high at Citi Field, rightfully so here to cap off what has been a brilliant June. They have a chance to win this series tomorrow as well, which makes it that much better, folks. And now when you look at Drew Smith out, you look at who can replace these guys in said bullpen. We know David Stearns is going to be adding by the deadline, as he kind of reaffirmed that today when asked. The Mets are in a similar position that they are right now. Would you consider them be buyers by the deadline? And he said right away without hesitation, sure, absolutely. Same way that they're not opposed to buying and selling, parting ways with some starting pitching talent, like i.e. Jose Quintana, for example, while still utilizing your in-house options. And Kristen Scott, who had himself another perfectly fine, sharp start at the AAA level a couple days ago. And then we saw Jose Buto go 7 strong innings in AAA as well. He looks ready and locked in go. Only walked 2 batters over 7 strong innings. And Kodai Senga, who's likely going to begin a rehab assignment as soon as next week. Mets have in-house options, of course, on the rotation front. But bullpen-wise, what do they have? Well, there's a couple guys that stand out, and it starts actually with Shintaro Fujinami. Remember him, everybody? Remember Fuji? Of course, the Mets signed a $3 million deal this offseason, and he was a guy that's a flamethrower, electric arm, but just has to put it together. Has been out with injury for a good period of time, but Fujinami in his first rehab assignment there in Port St. Lucie pitched a perfect inning on 6 pitches, all of them being strikes, and he topped out on 99 on the gun. So Shintaro, who again, I honestly do expect to be a weapon for David Stearns in this bullpen, may become a reality here at some point in the second half, more than likely post-All-Star break. Bryce Montes de Oca, another flamethrower in this Mets organization, who's been out for the past year plus with injury. He continues to ramp up and look beautiful now in his rehab. He pitched a perfect inning on just 7 pitches in Double-A Bennington today. So if you're wondering, what are some immediate options that the Mets may have outside of Triple-A right now of guys ramping up back from injury, enter Bryce Montes de Oca and Shintaro Fujinami as arms for David Stearns to consider in the coming weeks as they inch closer and closer to a Mets return. And the case of Fujinami to actually make an impact, something that he hasn't done yet this year because he lost, of course, the bullpen competition in spring training after a bad outing or two, was putrid to start the year, just could not command the zone. Electric stuff, but again, like Sam McWilliams a couple years ago, if you guys remember the name, you sign a guy that's towering, flamethrowing, but just can't command the zone or his pitches. Shintaro in the pitching lab of Port St. Lucie, I would argue that now is a prime time for him to really fine-tune and find his game, and him along with Bryce Montes de Oca are flamethrowing right-handers that I can guarantee you right now, come close, unless a major setback happens, those guys will be getting quality outs for the Mets at some point this season. And then you add in, okay, they can seek external options should they wish. So you really cannot go wrong here if you're the Mets. This is the same Mets bullpen that has somehow, someway gotten significant outings from guys like Reed Garrett, Danny Young, Danil Nunez, just to name a few, of course. And this is not describing at times the Johan Ramirez is that they parted ways with since then. Michael Tonka, we're not going to discuss. He's been balling out with the Yanks. That's good for him. Point is, the Mets have options here for their bullpen. I'm excited to see what they're going to do on that front. Edward, thank you so much for the $5 haul. Greatly appreciate that, Edward. Keep it up. No, you keep it up, brother. Happy to have you in here. O.M.G. says, Brennan, rightfully so, my man. But yes, that is all the latest really on the update front, folks. We talked about Drew Smith. We talked about Fuji. We talked about Bryce Montes de Oca. Now, finally, let's talk about this ball game 15 minutes in the show. And I will have timestamps for my people that watch us on replay too, so that way, everything's kind of structured the way you want it to be. But again, we got Ronald Blanco facing off against Jose Quintana. How's this matchup going to go? Great question. Let's find out. Starts off on the top of the first. Jose Altuve takes a sinker right down the dick by Jose and says, see ya, sayonara. I'm going to continue my Hall of Fame campaign, this time to left, as Jose Altuve quickly makes it a 1-0 ball game. On the first pitch, he finds himself seen. Afterwards, Yordan Alvarez would reach base on a walk. We would see Yainer Diaz, however, the better catcher, something Martin Maldonado certainly wishes he was. Seriously. Diaz with a single. Thankfully, after getting in the own jam that he started, we would see Jose Quintana work out of a bases-loaded jam after giving up that leadoff first pitch home run to Jose Altuve. So he limits the damage. He gets out of a bases-loaded jam unscathed as we then head to the bottom of the first. And in the bottom of the first, Francisco Lindor gets on via walk. Lindor continues his ridiculous stretch right now of getting on base every time he's leading off, it feels like, to kick off a game especially. He's been absolutely brilliant. To say that Francisco Lindor hasn't been a huge impact for this Mets team would be the fattest understatement you could possibly make. He has just been an absolute thing of beauty. And when we look at the Mets, offensive ranks too, they have been absolutely huge. As a whole, guys, again, this is through May 17th. They were 20th in offense, 18th in runs per game, 22nd in OPS. Since May 18th, the Mets currently sit first in average, first in runs per game, and first in OPS. And that's all in hand thanks to, again, a guy like Francisco Lindor stepping the hell up the way he has, being a true leader in that clubhouse, and being more vocal as a leader too. That has openly been the case. He's been more of a leader this year than he has in years past. Leading the charge in that team meeting the day Jorge Lopez, of course, had his whole fit with the Mets. That entire situation, Lopez was called up by the Cubs today as well, so wishing him all the best there, Jorge, along with Tomas Nido there in Windy City, Chicago. You see what the Mets have been getting from Francisco Lindor, and since being in that leadoff spot, and really since that team meeting as well, things have just went every which way possible in the right direction, and that is what we love to see. Mike Lefts with the $5 donation says, Quintana fighting through, bullpen holding out, McNeil a much-needed clutch home run, and the O.M.G. concert, the atmosphere feels insane. It is, Mike, and I wish I was there. This is one of those days I really wish I was at Citi Field. I finally want to be back there after not wanting to be there for a month, obviously, in May. I will be at plenty Mets games this season later in the summer as we get into July, August, and September, so I hope to see you guys there. But to everyone that was in attendance at Citi Field right now, I hope you guys are having a blast as the boys are playing phenomenal baseball right now. They really are, and they deserve a boatload of credit. Too much credit, you could write. Not too much. They deserve a lot, rightfully so. Speaking of the Mets, though, reeling back in this, again, I got on a tangent from a Lindor walk because, of course, I did. Afterwards, Nimmo with a walk, JD Martinez with an infield single. So the Mets and the Astros, what do they have in common? Bases loaded in the first inning and not taking nearly enough advantage. Thankfully for the Mets, after Pete Alonso strikes out in a silly at-bat, again, these are pitches down and away he should not be swinging at. He swings multiple times. Again, a walk would have drove in a run there with bases loaded, no out for Alonso, but he just couldn't help himself from swinging away. He swings, and again, that's the first out of the inning. Thankfully, Francisco Alvarez does Francisco Alvarez things, and Alvy, who's batting around 500, entering tonight's game over his past good stretch of games now, didn't have a lot on the offensive end, but did have an RBI sac fly to tie the ball game and drive in Lindor in said inning. The Mets don't do anything after that as Tiller lines out to end it, and then as we head to the top of the second, Chas McCormick gets on with a walk. Jose Quintana works around that, however. And the bottom of the second, Jeff McNeil, more like Jeff McHits, baby. I haven't said that much this season. I haven't said it much the past year, but he was it today. The hits god himself. I'm not going to call him a god on his current production, but I will call him a god based on tonight's production, not on how he's been universally throughout the season. However, Jeff gets on with a single. However, I will say this is not a hit that he deserved, and Jeff went from having everyone wanting him off the roster, then a lot of people still want him off the roster, but he had a lot of people wanting him off the roster the second inning, to everyone rallying around him later in the ballgame. Why, you might ask? McNeil gets on base with a lousy infield pop-up to left that we see drop between Jeremy Pena and Alex Bregman. The reason why that happened is because Pena had his earpiece in and was talking to Wayne Randazzo, shout out Wayno, if you know, you know, on the Apple broadcast today as they mic'd up the shortstop, and Bregman just didn't speak at third base at all. There was zero communication. I think Pena, having just spoke on air, threw him off, and there was no communication. The ball drops in between them, but they get it right back because McNeil somehow, some way, gets caught between first and second base not long after. And when that happens, that is a very frustrating out for a McNeil who's been laboring mightily, but two, you find he somehow, some way got on base when you probably didn't deserve to be on base there. Not probably you didn't. So that was a frustrating blunder on the base running by McNeil there. That, again, they initially gave a single to. which is crazy to me, but they did. And that's all that really happened in that inning. As we then get to the third, Yordan Alvarez, who of course is one of the best sluggers in all the American League, all Major League Baseball, Yordan leads things off that we'd see with a double. 2 outs later, then Jeremy Pena drives him in with an RBI single, and Dubon would have a single himself, but Jose Quintana works out of that. So the Mets are now down, that we see here, 2-1 after the Pena RBI single. But again, it's early. You're expecting the Mets to come back, and they certainly did. Tim, how you doing? Happy to have you in here. Alvin with the $2 donation. Alvin says, good win, but Alonso needs to be selective on his swings. We all know that, especially when it comes to the case of Alonso. Peak Pete Alonso, in my opinion, is not 2019. It's 2022. His pitch selection was brilliant. He hit for opposite field, and he drove in runs plenty. Pete is looking a little bit better. It was nice to see him hit the bomb later that we're going to get to shortly, but he's still free swinging out there a lot more than we have seen in years past. Clearly a guy that's been pressing this season in a walk year, that's still trying to find a consistency and a balance in his game that he has honestly struggled with quite a bit so far this regular season that we know with Mr. Pete Alonso. But again, the Mets are down 2-1 here as we then advance to the top of the fourth, where Harrison Bader makes a phenomenal catch to end the inning unscathed there for Jose Quintana. That'd be Quintana's final inning of work there before being pulled, that we would see in the fifth shortly after. But Jose, again, we would see a ball go to Harrison Bader. Harrison played it just a little too shallow. Normally a ball that he kind of gets under with ease. Has to go back, makes the jumping catch as you see in the highlights. He does a phenomenal job in doing so. Harrison Bader continues to be absolutely fantastic with the glove and with the clutch gene when hitting with runners in scoring position more often than not. In the bottom of the fourth, we see Tyrone Taylor continue the home run spree. This time an opposite field bomb to right ties the ball game, and that is such a thing of beauty for Tyrone, who has now hit home runs in back-to-back games for the Mets that we have seen here. Since filling in for Starling Marte is out at least a month with injury, we have seen now Tyrone Taylor step up and then some, and that has been awesome for Tyrone, that we know struggled quite a bit along with the rest of the Mets team in the month of May. Not the case here for Tyrone, as again, the Mets would tie this ball game 2-2 thanks to that opposite field home run. Everybody in the chat, let me know how you feel about Tyrone Taylor this season, because he has honestly been such a fun, nice fourth outfield option. That, along with Adrian Hauser, have really worked in spades now. It didn't work in the beginning with Hauser, but him as a multi-in reliever, being our own, essentially, Trevor Williams, has been absolutely massive. And then you're getting also what Taylor has provided, which has been perfectly solid defense in the outfield, center, left, or right, wherever you want him. A fastball heavy hitter that we know that can be streaky, but has been productive and has been able to put the ball in play quite a bit. Let me know how you guys feel about Tyrone Taylor. I would love to see that. Let's see. Jordan, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Jordan says, am I the only one that still wants to trade some players? Not all of them. If we get Senga back, we can trade Severino or McNeil. Sign Grimace. No, Jordan, I'm completely in agreement with you. I don't want Sevy to go anywhere, however, unless the Mets are offered a king's ransom by a desperate team. That would be the only real reason to warrant it. I want Sevy to stay. I'm absolutely in favor of certain other guys being dealt and the Mets buying and selling by the deadline, which is what they'll be doing. That's because their clients on Wardy probably banned them. Priest, what happened in the chat? No one banned anyone, my man. What is this? Okay, this is the final thing I'll say. I don't know what's happening in the live chat at all, Priest, among others. But guys, if there's any related drama, keep it to yourselves. Because I'm going to be quite frank, I don't care. I really don't. If you guys start your own shit, you got to know how to deal with it. Let's see. I don't know. Scolded me about. I'm not scolding you about anyone, Elgood. But again, why is this brought up? I feel like every single stream the past couple days. Just relax, everybody. Let's just have a nice Mets conversation, shall we? I did see Jalen Brunson was on SmackDown tonight and was eye down with his boy Tyrese Halliburton. They are friends, for those that don't know. So just feeding into that, to say the least. But all right, guys, let's reel back. Let's break down more of this ball game. Jordan, thank you for that donation. Means a lot. Sign Grimace. The Mets have already signed Grimace, so there's no need to do something they essentially have already done. But to get back in this ball game, we're tied 4-4 thanks to the Taylor Oppo bomb. In the top of the fifth, we see Yordan Alvarez get on via single. Adam Ottavino then comes into the game, and as Adam Ottavino comes into the ball game, of course, it's far from an easy sequence. Myers with a hit by pitch, a wild pitch would then advance runners, but Adam Ottavino works out of that jam unscathed, and we would see the final line here for Jose Quintana be as follows, folks. It is 4 innings of 6 hit, 2 earned run, 3 walks, 7 strikeout ball, a 4.57 ERA on the season for the veteran southpaw. Let me know in the chat, guys, how you feel about Jose Quintana after another start that, again, wasn't the worst thing in the world, but still zero depth from this veteran lefty whatsoever in this matchup. A guy that over his past number of starts hasn't given up more than 3 runs, but at the same time, outside of that Chicago start, he hasn't went deep in the games whatsoever either. Jordan, thank you for that donation, says, where does one get a Grimace outfit? Links, please. That's a great question. I'm sure you can find them pretty fast in the chat as well, or as, not chat, I'm sorry, on Google, wherever you may find them. But that's a good question, though, seriously. And we'll get into talking more about Grimace here shortly into the show, everybody. But as we continue to break this one down, folks, as the Mets again win by a final score of 7-2, after Adam Ottavino escapes that jam in the 5th, we head to the 6th where we see Daniel Nunez give up a single to Singleton, funny enough, who comes in a pinch hit. Daniel Caps with a 5 gifted in the chat. Thank you so much for that. Daniel, who's been a beyond generous supporter here on the channel, everybody. Look at that. My goodness, my God, my gracious. We get 5 members. Again, Charles, Steven, Steve, Carlos, Keto, Sean MD, you get a membership, you get a membership, you get a membership. We're doing our Oprah impression out here. Daniel, thank you so much for the 5 gifted. For all of you, in case you're unaware, an awesome member, Daniel Caps, in the live show here, just gifted 5 subscribers on the channel memberships to the WardyNYM platform. So thank you guys all so much for that. Really does mean a lot. Daniel, you're an absolute beauty for that. Really does mean a lot, my man. Thank you, thank you, thank you for doing all that, folks. And before I continue to break down the ball game, let's see. These are the homies all here. Yes, the homies are all here. That is correct. Let's see. We have the dream team here tonight, says Priest. Okay, this is going to be a fun one. We're almost at 150 likes in the live show, folks. Thank you so much. Help us get to 200 for our short-term goal here in the live show. We're going to be answering your questions, comments, and concerns here shortly. But before I do, I definitely got to continue to break down this ball game, get into our amazing sponsors, and everything in between here. Because as we continue to break down said ball game for the Mets, as we then advance to the bottom of the 6th, Pete Alonso, the sleeping polar bear, finally has awoken from his slumber. He rips his 17th home run of the season to make it a 3-2 Metropolitan lead. They take the lead for the first time in tonight's game. You absolutely love to see it. Pete rips one to left, and that wouldn't be the last we would see in said inning, as Alvarez would rip himself a double, because of course he does, just off the glove of Pena, gets in the corner there around third base, and Alvy, with above average speed for a catcher, gets himself to second base with these. An Alex Bregman error later there to Mark Vientos, funny enough, third base on third base crime, and Jeff McNeil somehow, someway pokes what clearly looks like a line drive to right. That gets out of the ballpark. That makes it a 3-run ad for the Mets here. Thanks to that bomb by McHits, as you see there. The McBomb by McNeil. Absolutely love to see it. The Mets would then take a 6-2 lead with the heroics by Jeff today, who stepped up mightily. So again, guys, if we are going to pick a Wardy's player of the game, it's crazy to say, but I got to go with Jeff McNeil. Jeff stood out plenty today. He had 3 hits. Again, one of them was fraudulent. The other one was clear, and the final one was certainly productive too. Let's see here. Vincent, thank you so much for the $5. Vincent in the chat says, love your stuff almost as much as I love the Mets in June. Who would have thought the Mets in June being a positive thing? I mean, color me surprised. Seriously, I'm not even being sarcastic when I say that. Vincent, thank you for the donation, and you're 100% right. A joyful June for the Amazons, baby. I've never seen a June like this for the Mets. This is actually quite literally one of the best Junes we've ever seen by the Mets as a history of an organization. That is not an exaggeration. This is really one of the best in their history. Chris, my man, happy to have you in here. Chris gets the gifted member by PB. First of all, PB, thank you so much for the gifted. That means a lot. Great, easy way to contribute to the channel. Secondly, Chris, longtime follower, longtime supporter. He gets the membership, beyond deserving. Chris, happy to have you in here. Thank you so much again for being in here as always. Chris, for those that don't know, Chris Ferraro has been an OG. I remember meeting him in Boston with the 7 line back in 2021, my first season covering the Mets, and I bumped into him in a 7 line pregame bar that we were at in Boston as part of the trip. Chris is a fantastic guy. I wish him the absolute best. Thank you again, PB, for that membership. As we continue to break down, the Mets are now up 6-2 in said ball game. As we then get to the top of the 7th, Yordan Alvarez with his second double of the day. Yener Diaz with his second single of the day. Espada then is out. He's thrown out of the ball game. Yes, Joe Espada, again, good friends with Carlos Mendoza, going all the way back to when they were in their playing days. Espada's thrown out of the ball game. First-year manager along with Mendoza, because we see an argue of balls and strikes to Myers. Myers wasn't happy with a strike call he got earlier in the day, which honestly was a bad strike call. I understand the frustration, but got frustrated again when it's definitely more of a borderline call. Espada gets thrown out in doing so. Myers stays in the game and commands center field or so. Pena with a walk thereafter. Dubon ground out ends the inning. So again, a bases loaded jam for Danil Nunez. Again, another day on the block. Not a problem for Danil as he gets out of that one unscathed for the young right-hander. He has been awesome for the Mets this season, eating those innings. Shout out to you, Danil Nunez, you absolute beauty. In the bottom of the seventh, then, we would see Francisco Lindor rip a single and quickly steal second base. JD Martinez gets on via walk. Alvarez with a walk. We got bases loaded, 2 outs here for Tyrone Taylor, who just misses a home run, unfortunately. Just misses a home run, which is what you hate to see. It would have been a grand salami. Tyrone's second of the season and first against an actual pitcher, because the first Tyrone Taylor grand slam I think we've seen this season, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that came against Luis Guillorme, right? Did it come against Luis Guillorme? I think it did, when they were having him throw for the Braves before he was then sent off then to the Angels, which I don't wish on literally anybody. Then we get to the bottom of the eighth here. Jeff McNeil gets on with a single, his third hit of the day, his third official hit. Lindor with an RBI double would drive him in. He would roll his ankle slightly, touching second base, but thankfully Lindor would, 1, stay in the ballgame, and 2, be perfectly fine. So not concerned there with Lindor. We love to see it, but they're driving in McNeil. A lot of the old today is what we saw. To get home runs and production from Lindor, McNeil, Alonso, the way that we did. We haven't really seen that a lot in unison this season. We've seen a lot of Lindor the past month and a half. We've seen sporadically Alonso, and we've seen very little of Jeff McNeil. And for a Jeff who I still firmly 100% believe will not be a Metropolitan by the season's end, at the absolute latest, I do think he will be dealt or parted ways, cut one way or the other. If you're going to be getting playing time, whether it's justified or not, if you're going to get playing time, I want you to succeed. Why do I want you to succeed? Because you're on my favorite team, the Mets. I want you to do well. And thankfully, in the case of Jeff McNeil today, he was able to do exactly that. So tip the cap, shout out to Jeff for being productive today. Because, oh boy, did we need it from him for a guy that's been non-existent most of the season. Whole lineup is contributing exactly. Again, you're getting some guys that, again, didn't even ball out tonight. We didn't see much from Vientos. We didn't see much from Alvarez. We didn't see a lot from the boppers in this lineup. And the Mets actually got out-hit by the Astros 12-9, and the Mets' expected batting average was just 204 to the Astros 269. So the Mets had some luck on their side in this matchup, whether it's defensive reasoning, whether it's call reasoning, because the ump was giving a favoritism to the Mets. That means nothing, considering the Mets get screwed all the time with umps, just like any other team in baseball. Point is, though, the Mets offensively actually didn't roll as much as you think today when looking at more of the advanced numbers, so they got some luck on their side. But hey, we're going to take luck, because when you have luck, that means things are going right. And for a Mets team, they're finally clicking the best way possible. Elgood, I apologize. We will not be doing calls tonight. The next time that we will be doing calls will either be on Sunday or sometime early next week. The Mets have a midday game tomorrow, and I, truthfully, if I'm being blunt here, folks, want to make sure I have some time to spend with my newborn tonight, because I've been very busy the past couple days. I've been spending as much time with him as I can, but I haven't really been able to spend much time with him at night, along with my girlfriend, when he, of course, has been fluctuating with his sleep patterns. So I don't want to be too long-winded with our post-game show for that reason tonight, but rest assured, next week we will bring back live callers once, if not multiple times throughout the week, especially if the Mets continue to roll the way that they have been. O.M.G is a good song. Yes, it is. Oh my God, baby. You love to see it. Love, love, love. And again, thank you so much to everybody for chopping in live on a replay of the latest in Mets land as they win this one again by a final score of 7-2. Folks, we got plenty more to get into in this matchup. We're going to get into a bit on the pitching. We're going to get into a bit on the offensive end here shortly. But before I do, there's 2 quick things I got to do for you. And it's 1. MassMat, thank you so much for the donation. They say, Wardy, we've been trying to sign a legit 4th outfielder forever. Davis, Diaza, Mayberry, Broxton, Keon Broxton, etc. We finally hit our guy in Taylor, a true 4th outfielder. That is true. That's a great point. Yep, the Mets have always struggled with depth, it's felt like, over the past decade. And now they finally have that in Tyrone. And here's the thing. If Marte comes back healthy, hopefully at tops a month from now, the Mets will be in a position where they can be very creative about their outfield configuration on if they want to keep all their current options or if they want to part ways with any. So again, awesome stuff to say the least. And yes, James, usually one thing leads to another, my man, but we're not going to do it just for the sake of rushing and getting into it. Jeremy, it's when you get your hits, not how many you get. Yes, that is true, Jeremy, especially not only when you're getting your hits, but how you're getting your hits too. not how many, but how you're actually getting your hits. Are you barreling baseballs? Are you providing quality at-bats? And McNeil, I will say, in multiple of his at-bats today, they were quality. They were more of the Jeff of old that we appreciate, especially if he's hitting up the middle, going opposite field. We gladly take that. Grimace Mets are so bad. I mean, the Grimace Mets aren't so back. The Grimace Mets are here. That's my counter. They've been here. They're rolling. These Grimace Mets are a new thing, not something that we have seen in years past. A package for Tanner Scott, I'm not exactly sure what it will cost, but it should be something that is semi-affordable as long as David Stearns is interested in going down that route. Stearns is brilliant when it comes to building a bullpen, so it wouldn't shock me if he acquired some arms that you really haven't heard of too much, but ball out for the Mets. Similar to what we're seeing with now Reed Garrett, Danilo Nunez, and to a lesser degree, Danny Young. Like, again, it's all just about getting outs and getting quality outs. Doesn't matter nearly as much about necessarily the name behind it as it does the production that they give you. And that is what David Stearns really hones his game on, is you know, his personality, not his personality, but just his overall makeup as a Pobo, as a GM, is to kind of find guys in areas where maybe you'd be surprised if they wouldn't be. Even with a big market club, that still holds true. The Dodgers do the same thing every year. The Yankees do the same thing. The Braves, every major team in baseball does it, and for obvious reasons. D Rapper, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Really does mean a lot, my friend. But all right, folks, before I get into breaking down more of the numbers, let's let it rip with our amazing sponsor at BetUS, folks, because, pardon me, actually, let me go back a second. We will do BetUS after. Let's start actually with our amazing friends, for many of you that know, our great friends at Sower MLB, because we are doing a Mets ticket giveaway where we haven't announced winners yet because I'm still waiting for them to send them my way. So in the meantime, if you guys want to enter for your chance to get free Mets tickets, now is the time to do so by doing the simple following steps. And that is by checking out our great friends at Sower MLB, the best MLB fantasy game out there, folks. Simply put, again, all you guys got to do when it comes to playing this amazing fantasy game is drafting your roster, building your roster, entering weekly tournaments, and again, you can buy, sell, and trade your cards on the marketplace in Sower MLB with your friends or people online. But of course, you don't need to spend money should you not wish to. You can, of course, just do it at your leisure by upgrading your team and entering more exclusive tournaments, which give you better turnouts of cash prizes, hundreds if not thousands of dollars, or various giveaways to upgrade your team with cards the way that I won a Corbin Burns card in my last tournament for doing so well. So that's an ace added to my team. This is one of the rosters I currently have rolling. Don't mind Edwin Diaz. It's because he's suspended, so that's why there's the did not play there. But we're loving Gunner. We're loving a lot of this production here. And we have lineups here that have started tonight of tournaments, folks. And if you guys want to get in for your chance to win Mets tickets, again, Mets ticket giveaway. All you got to do, we're picking 3 lucky, amazing Mets fans to win tickets to any games they want to go to this season. All you got to do is check out our great friends at Sower MLB by clicking the link down below to sign up today, 1, and 2, simply draft your team and enter a tournament. It's that simple. Again, you don't have to spend a dime should you not wish to. All you guys got to do is, again, to sign up with our awesome friends with my unique link available in the live stream description for you all at your leisure whenever you get a chance to do so. And we will be officially announcing the giveaway winners in the coming days at absolute latest the beginning of next week, as they might not get back to me now so rare until after the weekend, now that we're heading into, of course, Saturday. So make sure to check it out, guys. Good luck to you all. We gave away to the lucky 5 Mets fans tickets to any games they want to go to this season over a month ago. We're doing it again to 3. So get in on the action with our friends at Sower MLB today, in case you guys and gals haven't already. And again, thank you so much for doing so. Now to hop back into this one, Boo Cards won, still 1 game back. That's okay. Again, we got a lot of time to worry about playoff placement. What we got to worry about right now is what the Mets can do in the time being. Can they continue to roll? Can they continue to get victories? Can they continue to win 8 out of their last 10 games? That is exactly what the Mets have continued to do, and I expect and anticipate them to continue to do exactly that. The Mets, again, look for the series victory tomorrow, and there's no reason for me to not believe that the Mets can't get there. And even furthermore, the Mets do say drop to tomorrow's game. I have a confidence level in them being able to, at minimum, get that rubber match there on Sunday. They just won their first rubber match. They got their first rubber match victory for the first time all season just a couple days ago. Now they have the chance to do that on Sunday should they drop tomorrow. But I think the Mets are going to win. I have a confidence level in this Mets team with the way that they have been rolling, and I really do think that they are going to find themselves in a position where they're going to take the series. They're going to get 2 games above 500, and hopefully, fingers crossed, get on a roll and continue from there. But all right, guys, let's see here. Actually, now let's get into a bit on the pitching front, because let's talk a bit about the pitching. And as always, what we do here on the pitching front, we break down a little bit on the numbers. Not going to go too deep with the numbers today with Jose Quintana and others like we have in the past, because Quintana's start was still underwhelming to me in certain aspects, but I want to highlight it to a degree, and here's why. As we see Jose Quintana, again, 4 innings of 6 hit, 2 earned run ball, 3 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Shout out to my man Isaac Groffman. For those that don't know Isaac, check him out on Twitter at ISAACGROFFMAN. Isaac Groffman does a fantastic job with his own pitching analysis, pitching threads, and everything in between that has to do with either baseball, pitching as a whole, the Mets, especially as a diehard Mets fan, and everything in between when looking at more advanced information, especially with these pitchers. And Isaac does a great job of relaying information to me. Didn't relay much tonight because honestly, there's a lot to headline. Nunez was fantastic. Quintana was really as advertised, 7 strikeouts. I'm not complaining there, but still, you can't even get beyond 4 innings with Jose Quintana. That's why I'm sure Isaac would say the same thing. If we had to give them a rating, I personally would give a rating out of 10 out of this for Jose Quintana. I can't go any higher than a 5 because, again, you gave the Mets no length today, but I appreciate his Houdini magic getting out of jams somehow and keeping the Mets in this ball game, so thank you for that, Jose. But this is also, again, a guy that I'm not opposed to seeing dealt by the deadline over, say, a Kristen Scott, over, say, a Jose Buto, over, say, a Kodai Senga that can step in those rotation spots with absolute ease. Speaking of rotation, folks, we're going to be talking a little bit more on that with Jose Buto, Brandon Sproat, among others, as I will be giving you guys our nightly prospect report before we wrap up the live show. I realized I didn't get a chance to do that in our last live coverage 2 nights ago because I just honestly lost track of time and didn't realize that we didn't talk about it yet. So, guys, please spam in the chat if we're reaching the end of the live show and I hadn't brought up our nightly farm report. I'm going to go over the box scores of each games for the minor leagues for the Mets tonight, highlight what stood out on the prospect end, along with what guys have done over the past 24, 48 hours that stood out in my humble opinion. But on the pitching end, Jose Quintana as well, what we saw there was just, again, more of the same. The changeup looked very good, very effective for him, which we're not complaining there, but just, again, a guy that is certainly expendable at the right price by the deadline, and it's looking that way at this current rate. Adam Ottavino, again, was far from perfect, but he worked out of his jam. He's another arm where the Mets find better, higher leverage situational pitchers, either in-house or externally. Not opposed to seeing him dealt either, obviously. Danilo Nunez, I've been absolutely loving. He has been a bulldog eating those innings for the Mets. 2 strong, allowing 0 earned runs, 3 hits, 1 walk and 1 strikeout, 2.3 ERA for Mr. Danilo Nunez. Jake Diekman with 1 scoreless inning. We take that. When Jake Diekman was in, my girlfriend looked at me. I'm holding our son Shay, and she just said, "Oh no, why is he in there?" She hates Jake Diekman because every time she's seen Jake Diekman pitch, that's when he's absolutely imploded, especially in the month of May, where I don't blame her. Jake Diekman is such a Jekyll and Hyde mofo of a pitcher. I don't blame anyone for having, colorful feelings about him. But Diekman got the job done today with that 3.65 ERA, and Reed Garrett held his own. Gave up a couple hits, but it doesn't matter. In the non-save situation, we gladly take that from Reed Garrett with now a flat 3 ERA on the season. Everybody, again, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would love to see in the chat where you guys have Jose Quintana's final line. Again, for me, I have him at a 5 out of 10. No more, no less. That's what I have to say about that. Adam, how you doing? Says, hey, Wardy, both NY teams won today. Yes, they did. A lot of drama in Yanksland, though, with Stroman and Glaber, among others. I saw a little bit on that. When I really like listening to Jose Iglesias' new O.M.G. song. When we got Yankees fans going out of their way to compliment Jose Iglesias' brilliance with the O.M.G. song, things are going right in Metsland, right? So first of all, Adam, appreciate you chiming in. You are absolutely an amazing Yanks fan, I can tell, and an awesome supporter. So thank you so much for being here. Hope you're doing fantastic, my friend. Let's see. Richard Zucker. Oh, my God, from Usher. Yep, that too. Appreciate you. Great memory here as always, everybody. We got 3s. We got 5s. We got 5s. We got 3.5s. Let's see, everybody. Where are we going to have it? Priest, you got 5 as well. Yeah, right there. Elgins is 5.2 because he's feeling a little different. I like that. We got some 4s, says D. Let's see. Chris, of course, is spamming the emoji, which we love. Like you said, every time Tyler Diekman is Jekyll and Hyde, yes, he is, which is the case with a lot of relievers. It happens. I'm not losing sleep over it, but I don't love it either. And that's one of those things where I certainly hope it changes to a degree, right? Chiefs, how you doing? Happy to have you in here, brother. Hope all is well. As we bring down the latest in Metsland as they win this one comfortably by a final score of 7-2. And again, what has stood out so much for the Mets has just been this continued persistent winning. Has been the offense rolling as much as it has been, folks. And before we get into a little bit on the offensive numbers to break down the game a bit more, we're almost at 250 likes in the live show, so continue to smash a like and subscribe on for your boy. Thank you all so much in advance for doing so. Help us get also to 30K subs for our next short-term goal. We're oh so close to 26K. We're just a couple hundred away, so thank you so much for that. But we're trying to get to our next short-term goal of 30K for the largest platform and the most amazing Mets community here on YouTube, not directly affiliated with the Mets or SNY. But folks, before we continue to break down the ball game, get into a bit on the offense, I'll answer some questions, comments, and concerns for you. I'm a big Mets fan, Chief, so I'm happy to have you in here, my friend. If you're a big Mets fan, then this is a place for you. And you went to the Mets game on June 1st, there you go. So right in the beginning of things finally starting to turn the tide there for the Amazons. Love to hear that. Now, folks, let's talk quickly and briefly about our awesome, amazing sponsor that may you guys know, BetUS. Because in case you guys and gals don't know BetUS, again, it's America's #1 sportsbook. You know the drill by now. For all your sports betting needs, check them out today by clicking the link down below in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on not your first, not your second, but your first 3 deposits. All your sports betting needs, I present BetUS. And in today's pregame show that we did earlier live on the channel, I told you guys, again, I don't hammer the Mets often, but I hammered them tonight. You had to hammer the Mets as the money line and the spread underdog, the slight underdog there that we saw. They were plus 1.5 on the spread, the run line on minus 175. We hammered the Mets on the money line, and they came out and they cashed out. So if you guys tailed the Mets bias pick today, you came out with some money. I'm sure Daniel did. Daniel, of course, is always raving about his winnings in the chat here. If you know, you know. And as we take a look at the matchups, folks, I'm actually not even going to bother to take a look at this. I want to take a look, if it's available for me, I want to take a look at the UFC, everybody. We talk about baseball picks all the time. We're going to do that mainly on the channel. But if you guys want to hear a little bit about Wardy and what I like to talk about that isn't baseball related, I'm a big UFC fan, big fight fan. Love me some UFC fights. Been a fight fan for years now. We have some exciting ones. Not too many. The 303 was supposed to be Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. McGregor unfortunately broke his pinky toe. He's out for the fight. That isn't happening. So they quickly made two different fights happen that initially weren't expected to happen. And actually one of them is Diego Lopez, who is a fantastic, young, exciting young, exciting fighter in Lopez versus the grizzled vet and Brian Ortega, who went healthy. He's still an absolute dog. They took this fight on 2 weeks' notice. It's at 155. It was supposed to be 145. Ortega couldn't cut more weight than he already did. I have Diego Lopez in this one. As much as Brian Ortega is a dog, Lopez is an animal. He had a really tough weight cut, so Ortega has the advantage with not losing as much weight, but Lopez will gain that back in the coming days before his fight. I love him there, straight outright to win. And then we got Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska. For those that don't know these fighters, Alex Pereira has basically won every championship in a very short period of time. This guy has single-handedly dominated the UFC the past 2 years. I've seen every single one of his fights live, including him both beating and losing to Izzy Adesanya. Yuri, he has beat in the past. I think he will again. Yuri is a very young, not very young, but very exciting, also very spiritual of a fighter. This guy is meditating by himself in the mountains in Europe versus Alex Pereira is quite literally from a native tribe in Brazil. So it's a completely crazy dynamic. When he comes out, he literally holds back a fake bow and arrow and screams his head off. Alex is the champ. He's a dog. I think he's going to win. So I'm going with both the money line favorites here, but for obvious reasons, that's why they are the favorites. I'm going to put 10 down for each, and then as a whole for this 2-pick parlay, everybody, it is going to be 10 that's going to win you 19. So if you guys would like to tail these UFC picks, by all means do so at your own risk. Of course, I'm not a betting expert. I just love to bet with my amazing friends at BetUS. So check them out today. So excited for UFC 303 this weekend. It's going to be an absolute blast. So for my fight fans out there, go to luck and make sure you bet responsibly, again, with our great friends at BetUS. But hop back in this one, folks. Let's talk about the hitting. Let's talk about what stood out there, because it's been standing out. Again, even an offense tonight that wasn't overwhelming the way that has been in recent days, and overwhelming in the best way possible. The Mets scored over 20 runs on the Yankees over a 24-hour span like it was another day on the block, like it was nothing. Not surprised there. As we take a look at the Mets here today, though, Lindor again 2 for 4 with the double and the RBI, 249 average, 762 OPS on the season for Lindor. In left field, we have Brandon Nimmo 1-0 for 2 today with a pair of walks, 240 average, and a just under 800 OPS on the season. JD Martinez batting third, had himself a hit and had himself a walk. Pair of strikeouts, 286 average and 854 OPS. Briefly on JD Martinez, I would like to highlight that Carlos Mendoza spoke pregame today, actually spoke in an interview in a podcast not long ago, and spoke on the impact that someone like JD Martinez has had. And JDM has had quite the impact on this Mets team, to say the least. So maybe more significant than what you initially thought, folks. Because if we take a look at JDM here, let me go back down to my tweet from earlier so I don't miss it here. JD Martinez, his impact on the Mets has been absolutely massive. And it goes all the way back to just a couple weeks into the season where he started having more of a say in the Mets hitting approach. And it is as follows here from Carlos Mendoza, and I quote, Said this pregame today. Want to relay it because most of you guys won't watch the pregame that are watching postgame here. He started being vocal in hitters meetings, one-on-one conversations, and then hitters started going to him. Then him going to the hitting coaches to get on the same page and put together good game plans. Again, this happened a couple weeks after being with the Mets here, and after a couple weeks, the Mets offense as a whole post May 11th per Michael Mayer Mets rise 261 team average, 332 on base, 451 slug for a 126 WRC plus, 26% better than the average team offensively in Major League Baseball. Let's see, last night, I shouldn't be telling you how to do your show. I actually look forward to your shows. Peace out, bro. I don't know what happened there, brother, but no worries whatsoever. I appreciate you chiming in. I appreciate the apology. If I'm being frank when I say I don't even remember what the circumstance was, so if I'm saying that, you have nothing to worry about. I assure you. But appreciate, Les Williams, spam those W's in the chat. He's feeling electric about this Mets team. But yeah, simply put, JD Martinez has had a huge impact on this Mets team. When we go all the way back again to that team meeting with Lindor and Martinez voice then, I just told the guys again, play loose, play your game, but everyone's doubting you. No, everyone's writing you off. No one thinks we're going to win or do anything. Let's prove them wrong, but let's take this day by day. Let's chip away. And the Mets chipping away and the Mets having that mentality have dug themselves completely out of an 11-game below 500 hole, now 1 game above 500. It is so refreshing knowing that if the Mets drop tomorrow's game, they're not below 500 yet. I know that might not seem like a lot, but that's a lot for this Mets team that has come such a far way over the past month plus. It has been ridiculous the run that they have found themselves on. I want JD Martinez as this Mets hitting coach as soon as that man retires, should he want to stay in Major League Baseball, because he is quite literally saving the asses of Eric Chavez and Danny Barnes each passing day with the way he has been so fantastic with this Mets hitting approach for not only, simple guys like Pete Alonso, but the entire offense, the entire lineup as a whole. JDM went on the tangent there because we had to. Pete Alonso 1 for 4 with the bomb today, his 17th of the season, 241 average, 798 OPS. Francisco Alvarez 1 for 2 with the double and the RBI sac fly, 316 average, 918 for my catcher, baby. We love ourselves some El Troll. We love that, Alvy. Continue to keep up the great work. Tyrone, we love those bombs too, baby. Taylor with this another home run and as many games back-to-back games of home runs for Tyrone Taylor, filling in for Starling Marte's out for a month at least with injury. Taylor with 240 average and a 673 OPS on the season. Mark Vientos went 0 for today. That's fine though. 290 average and 906 OPS. Jose Iglesias came in third base for a defensive replacement at the end of the game, 0 for 1. Jeff McHitz 3 for 4 with the home run, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs, 221 average, and still a 595 OPS on the season for Jeff McNeil. Harrison Bader 0 for 4 today. Did have great defense, however, 270 average and 729 OPS on the season. Let's see this, everybody. Matthew Martell with a $5 holla. Thank you so much for that, Matt. Matt says, oh my God, get Crochet, keep Sevy, bring up Scott. I don't give a fuck. This is a playoff team. There's no way JD gets traded. That's a bad move, by the way. Acuna will impact this team. Matthew, I agree with a lot. I say give up a king's ransom for Garrett Crochet. I do that every single day and on Sundays. I don't care who the prospects are for the most part. If you're essentially not named like one guy, I'm willing to ship you. I'm willing actually to drive you to Chicago myself to make sure we get Garrett Crochet in return. I would love that flamethrowing southpaw in this rotation. Would do wonders for years to come beyond 2024. Luis Angel Acuna, I do think will impact the Mets at some point this season. Just not yet, and won't be until sometime in the second half if I was a betting man. Bring up Zach, not bring up Zach Scott. Not that Scott. Bring up Christian Scott. Yes, I agree. That's long overdue. Scott should be with the Mets back as soon as humanly possible. Final things I would like to share with you all before we get onto our prospect report and wrap up tonight's show is David Stearns. David Stearns had himself a presser today, and there were some key things that stood out. But the main thing, again, as I reiterated just once more, is the Mets under David Stearns right now, when asked how do I feel about them right now, it's a fluent situation. We're always working. We're always trying to be good and all these things. But he made it known that he's obviously happy about the direction the Mets are trending in. He's not opposed at all to being buyers of the deadline. He's expected to both buy and sell. And when asked about is there any limitations with Steve Cohen and his ability to help when it comes to making deals by the deadline, he reaffirmed that Steve is able to help basically in any and every way possible. So what does that mean? What that means is on the financial end, the Mets will be willing to eat salary of either dead weight on their roster like a McNeil or like a Marte. Not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying they are willing to do that to make a trade happen for the betterment of the team, obviously. They're also willing to take on salary. This is a Mets team that, again, by not spending as much as they did in the offseason, honestly has a decent amount of millions to work with leading up to the trade deadline, excluding the tax and excluding, of course, that line there that you have to deal with Mr. Steve Cohen. So Cohen has shown a willingness and maybe even an interest, for all we know, in actually eating, if we have to eat bad salary of a contract to take on a better player or a better prospect elsewhere, the Mets are willing to do that. They have so many creative avenues that they can go by leading up to the deadline. Everything that David Stern said in his presser today just kind of reaffirmed that. Reaffirmed that everything is trending in the right direction, one. And two, they're a team right now that they know that under David Stearns, should they continue to trend this way, there's no reason for them to be wanting to sell off key parts of this core, not named Jeff McNeil, for example. This is a team that very much so I think is going to stay in unison past the deadline as long as they have another strong month, hopefully. It's a big, July's going to make or break for them how they approach the deadline, obviously, to a degree, but it's not going to make or break their season per se unless they truly free fall, where we're going to knock on wood and pray to God that doesn't happen. This Mets team right now, currently constructed 40-39. If the deadline was tomorrow, they will be buying plenty, and they will be considering to sell one, if not multiple, of their starters at bare minimum. So that's kind of the latest there on the updates with David Stearns. Not a whole lot else to point out, along with just emphasizing how amazing Francisco Alvarez has been, how much of a game changer Francisco Alvarez has been since coming back. Again, the fact that the Mets only have 2 losses out of 25 games with Alvarez this season is pretty damn telling of just how much of an impact this man has for the Mets and for the better, mind you. So let's wrap up the show, folks. I have met Steve Cohen before, actually. Let me see. I can show you right now. See the wall? There's Steve. There's Steve. Yes, if you want to call me a simp, if you want to call me a bootlicker, I quite frankly don't give a flying fuck. If you want to know why, it's because I love my Mets owner. And he's actually a guy that's willing to spend. He's trying to do what's better for the team, and that's going to be not going to be a schmuck that somehow gets involved in a scheme far worse. Steve Cohen, of course, has went through his financial and legal battles as a multi-billionaire, but he hasn't went to the lengths of investing basically everything into Bernie Madoff and being the absolute dumbasses that the Wilpons were, which is why they got themselves in the hole that they were and why they were able to spend such limited money for a good stretch of their time as owners after that situation. I love Steve Cohen. Nothing's really going to waver from that anytime soon, at the very least. But let's get into the prospects now, folks. We're 4.5 behind the Braves. That's actually crazy. It's crazy. That's nuts. Love Uncle Stevie. If I got here, I'll smack you, says Mike to anyone that's talking shit on Steve. Love that, folks. Now let's get into some updates because there's some prospect reports I'd like to share with you. First of all, I'm going to share some prospect reports that came 2 days ago from the last time the Mets played. And it starts with the Syracuse Mets. 2 days ago, they won 7-4. And we saw Mike Vassell have a solid outing, which is great because he struggled mightily so far that we have seen in Syracuse this season. Max Kranick was solid, 2 innings of 1 earned run ball, 3.3 ERA on the season. Luis Angel Cunha 2 games ago, 2 for 5 with an RBI, which is great. Brett Beatty had 2 bombs in that game that I want to headline with 354 average and a well over 1,000 OPS, which is insane. Beatty continues to rake at the AAA level. Again, staying on the trend of the last time the Mets played. So 2 days ago, we're going to take a look at Nick Morabito had himself a hit. Jesus Baez, again, these are guys in Brooklyn Cyclones with the Mets, got themselves some hits. Jonathan went 6 innings of 1 earned run ball, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts for the 20-year-old who's so fantastic, already looking like a top pitching prospect for the Mets at the young age of 20. 3.38 ERA on the season, was simply unhittable. With Port St. Lucie got called up, struggled to transition a little bit there with the Cyclones, but didn't take him too long to find his game. And he's the guy that we're going to see with the Rumble Ponies before we know it. Now, talking about Jonathan, talked about those couple games. Final game I will talk about that was from a couple days ago is the Port St. Lucie Mets here. If there's anything that's Tanner Houck got himself an RBI, which is nice. Mets top prospect, top draft pick from a year or so ago, but that's all she wrote. So as we now advance forward to the games that have transpired tonight, the Mets took down the Buffalo Bisons by a final score of 9-4. And Luis Angel Cunha won 1 for 4 tonight, including 2 runs scored and a walk. Brett Beatty won 2 for 5 that we see there with an RBI. We see Rylan Bannon, who has been awesome on the defensive end, and offensively he's been solid, carrying himself with a just under 900 OPS. 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs that we see there, thanks to his home run, his 14th of the season. Bannon and Ritter alike. Ritter 2 for 5 today. Similar, both him and Bannon are guys that some Mets fans really want called up and fast. These are veteran options in the infield for the Mets, but not guys that really have much MLB experience, if at all. 1 and 2, they're just not guys that the Mets are really going to be banking on anytime soon, regardless of really what they do at the AAA level. A guy like Mike Brosseau has more potential to be called up before them, in my opinion, because Brosseau, who can play DH, he can play third base, he can play all over the infield, is looking fantastic. 2 for 4 in tonight's game, 288 average, 846 OPS. Brosseau also knows David Stearns very well, as he was a big utility guy with the Brewers for multiple years. He was a late signing for the Mets this season, so there's a veteran infield option. I could see the Mets considering not named Jose Iglesias. I would look right away at Brosseau as a guy that they would ponder if his defense is at least competent, which I know might be a tall task. The Rumble Ponies did nothing on the offensive end today. They lost 0 for 2 to the Sea Dogs, so really won't touch on much there outside of Nolan McLean, our Cowboy Ohtani, who bats and pitches pretty well. McLean, who has struggled with the pitching end so far this season, 5 innings of 2-run, 1 earned run ball, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts actually that we see at the AA level. So not terrible there from McLean today. And when we look at the Brooklyn Cyclones, they steamroll the Ironbirds 7-0. And among that production comes guys like Jesus Baez, who's a big bopper for the Mets and the organization. 1 for 5 that we see here. We see also LaRusso, which is very exciting. Nick LaRusso, who is from Maryland. He was drafted by the Mets in the 9th round. Was born in New York, though. Born in Carmel and went to college at Maryland. So he's actually a New York native. That's what I meant to say there. He had himself a big day there for the Cyclones that we see in this matchup. Let me go back in here. 1 for 2, 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs. Awesome stuff for LaRusso, who had himself his 11th home run this season there in the 3rd inning. And then on the pitching end, if there's anything that's notable there, nope, not overly. And now to wrap up things on the prospect front, the Port St. Lucie Mets took down the Cardinals by a final score of 10-8. And in this production, we see Tanner Houck with a massive day. Finally, Tanner Houck is doing something. Again, top prospect drafted by the Mets a year or so ago. Grew up in Braves country, grew up a diehard Mets fan. I just want to see this guy ball out and be the prospect we know he can be. Houck with a huge day, one of his better days this season. 3 for 5 with 2 runs scored and 2 RBIs for Houck. His 12th double of the season. We saw him rip 210 average, 642 OPS, so still has a lot to work still in his young minor league level, but nice to see him have a big day there and in single A. And Shintaro Fujinami, as I mentioned earlier, again, had himself a perfect inning there in rehab, looking great, touching the gun at 99, and we saw Bryce Montos Dialco look great in his rehab assignment as well. So that's all the latest on the prospect front, folks. That is what you got from the Metsies as they ultimately win this regular season matchup against the Houston Astros by a final score of 7-10. We will be back live tomorrow, either right after tomorrow's game or a little bit later in the night. Either way, we will have coverage, hopefully after a series victory, everybody. And again, thank you all so much for taking the time to chime in live on a replay. It means a lot. Let's see. Jack made a channel, says, yes, we're hot as hell, 100%. For 1 month, does this change anything for Stearns at the deadline? We were 100% sellers last month. We were never 100% sellers. That's something that people need to stop thinking. The Mets were never, ever thinking that we were 100% sellers, even when they were 10 games below 500. I assure you that. This is a long game. This is why front offices, like David Stearns especially, don't chomp at the bit too early or make a rash decision too premature when you have a lot more baseball to be had. And he put a point of emphasis, actually, in his presser today, explaining exactly that, how the stretch the Mets have been on, it just further proves how much can change in such a short period of time. That's why his season is so fluid. That's why it's a marathon, not a sprint here. And for the Mets case, right now, they will be buying and selling. The only reason where it makes sense to bench him is if we don't care about his confidence and we're trying to bump his trade value up. In the case of McNeil, if that's what you're assuming, Priest, I would suggest that's correct. Yes, he has been getting more playing time because of that exact reason. They're trying to up his trade value the best way they can. Chief, have a great rest of your night, my man. Happy to have you in here. Ricardo says, Wardy, is Max Kranick a possibility out of the bullpen? Well, he's been utilized as a multi-aim reliever every single time out there, so that kind of proves that, yes, if the Mets do call him up at any point this season, they will do exactly that. Let's see. Bye, Priest. Have a great night, my man. Happy to have you in here as always. Let's see. And Jack, appreciate that as well. PB, hope you're having a great evening, my friend. Enzo, have a great night too, folks. And you know what? I think this is just a perfect time for us to cap it. Yep, Max Kranick is a guy, diehard Mets fan growing up. Of course, was a waiver pickup by the Mets this offseason. Missed out on competing for the rotation because he had an injury to shorten his sprain. But Kranick has been very solid in multi-inning relief. And rest assured, with the Mets needing a lot of multi-inning relief options, I don't think it'll be long before they consider someone like Max Krennic, should they continue to have the ailments and the lack of consistency they've had with certain guys and their pen. But everybody, that'll do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Mets win an awesome one tonight by a final score of 7-2. They get their offense early and they do what they need to do to step up. Pete Alonso gives the Mets the lead and Jeff McNeil puts a cap on it, which is what we love to see. I'll see you all tomorrow. Until then, have a fantastic night, day, evening, whatever it is you're watching this. And this is your boy Wardy signing out. And you can be buyers and sellers for the final time, all good. That's why David Stearns himself reaffirmed exactly that. Have a great one, folks. And as always, let's go Mets. Peace out.